pragmatic about where your break-even point is and be very quick to adjust so you never reach that point.
Okay, so I can take.
All right, so let's do
Oh, that might be.
And what I would suggest is, I can give you this, you can start using it, or you can plug it in and see how your previous month did, and play with it. But play with it and ask questions, because I'm going to send it to you. I want you to play with it. You only need those 3 pieces a day, the rest does itself. And you can kind of see how you're running in that regard. I'm going to go to my desktop so I can get the dealership. I love technology, I hate technology.
I think you can try to avoid me.
So what questions while we're waiting do you have so far? Does this make sense in terms of approach? You think this could be helpful to you, daily management? I want to make sure I'm on the right track.
I have some nurses who do like, I don't know when it's negative, but they don't know what's the call.
Well,
I've got some
you have paramedics that do that to me. You know, I would look at it and we would immediately go, well, how many calls did they ran? And when was the last call? In our world, it's based on that. So I would see people with holdover time, and the last call they ran was like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They didn't get off till 7 at night, and they got an hour and a half holdover time for documentation. So then you go to them and say, we were really busy, until we figured out that we were actually tracking what their activity really was.
I've got a couple nurses who stay over, but I know they're not milking the clock. They just,
Well, that's for
they're
you as a
not as
manager.
quick as
That-
other people. I mean, I know.
Yeah, and that's for you as a manager to determine, and I don't propose to get into your world and tell you how to run your
Sure.
operation. All I'm trying to do is to kind of give you guide points to say where are my efficiency opportunities, and from that perspective, is it for you, is it a training opportunity for them? But, you know, we get into this conversation around documentation and CERN, and ease of use, and you guys don't meditate.
And sometimes they can't start documenting until 5
It
p.m.
may not be.
I mean, that's just
You know, I've run those calls on an ambulance where I've run 10 calls back to back, 3 cardiac arrests in a row, and I'm 8 charged down.
Yeah.
That's not
It's gonna happen.
diagnosis, we're doing these care balance.
I think the clocking in early is easier to manage and stay away.
It is. It is actually a big opportunity. Do you want to
Yeah.
know how much that's worth to us? Because we do the random on that, just the Columbia campus is nurses only. Annualized right now, it's around $900,000 in opportunity per year.
So can you put a penal piece to it? If that kind of
That's
nice.
beyond me.
I'm just saying, but can you tell nurses if you're clocking, now we got our charge nurses clocking early, but a regular staff nurse, if they're clocking in early, can we say, hey, look, this is
You
a,
wait a second.
We want this,
A
like, we do
coaching
like
opportunity.
monthly reports and go over like early clock-ins and things each month. And we've seen a huge improvement.
Yeah,
Can you run that in Kronos?
as a friend, yeah, you can run it in Kronos. You, as a friend of mine used to say, they will respec what you inspect.
I mean, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but if it's $900,000 a month,
And you wanna watch any early clock.
that's $9 million a year.
How
But
many
here's the
they
trick,
have.
Well,
guys,
$1 million,
this is
so
my
1.2
point,
million.
little things that we're talking about, incremental. They may not seem like a lot of money individually, but what's one of our biggest strategic opportunities in this organization? That we have to correct in something. We gotta be in market, right? To be competitive and stay in our environment. These little things that we're talking about is what are in summation detracting from our ability to go to market in our daily management of what we need to do strategically overall long term. Okay, so So when you do go to report to web or Kronos, reports, you want to do a roll-up Genie,
Roll-up G.
roll-up Genie, and you want to run employee hours by labor account, or you can do it hours by labor account. This one gives you on an employee basis, okay? And you'll get a pop-up window, and let's pick, Sarah, what's your number? 618. Okay, and we're gonna do this for yesterday. So if you're doing this for yesterday, you just simply go select yesterday, draw all this back over. Okay, now, what's productive? Regular hours, and you have to learn where this is. There's regular. Push regular over. Overtime hours, are they productive? Yeah, they are. Yep. That's anything over 40 is what we consider overtime. So yeah, they're productive. There it is. Is PTO productive? Jury duty productive? No? What about premium pay issues? Holiday pay would be the only other thing in this. Not premium pay per se, but holiday. Premium pay is an incremental. Kind of like what you'd see in here around the weekend divs, see these weekend divs here? Those are not truly considered productive hours. They're add-ons to your productive. So don't inadvertently pull something like that.
How about orientation?
Orientation is not considered productive in this process. Okay? All right, so let's find, just in case, you always want to pull this in. We know when our holidays are. I got to find it there. It's holiday premium. Because that gets that differential with the work one of the accrued holidays. Okay? So then you got it, and then all you simply do is you hit run report, and then it's eventually going to run this report, and you can refresh it by hitting check report status, see where it says it's running. Just in case, yeah.
Okay.
Because if you hit one of the authorized holidays and they work it, they get paid that differential. You gotta, that's considered productive hours, so you gotta make sure you don't inadvertently short yourself on the holiday. Okay, so you see where it says complete, double click on it. Bam, I have myself a nice report. And so now what you can do is I've got my first person here, James Boggs, worked 12.3 hours. So is that this incremental we're talking about? Okay? And you go on down and you can see, sorry, you can see 12.4, 12.3, there's 11.9, 12.2, or 12.3, 12.1. There's a significant one, that may be something legitimate going on. You ask somebody to hold over a few hours, don't know. I do know that that is a nurse. Yep. But she's showing regular hours, she's not showing class hours. It will show up. Okay, so you go on, and my point is, in looking at this, you can see your shift people here where you consistently got just that little bit extra. So that may be an opportunity from an efficiency
Alright, so let me
standpoint.
ask this, so like Leia, she had skills for yesterday and then we had a unit meeting. And so hers is still like, because it has not been coded to Kronos as workshop. Then
Is
it's
it
gonna
3.1
show-
hours? Yeah, if it's not coded correctly, it's gonna show up. So that's
So you
another,
need to
that's
make
an
sure it's
opportunity to
coded
go,
correctly
yeah,
before
make
the-
sure it's coded correctly, then pull it correctly. Because if it's not, then it's gonna show us productive regular hours. So what my point is you go all the way to the bottom. You do two things with this. You can see how their people are managing. And now I have 267.4 hours for yesterday. And I did it that quick. And then I go and plug that into the formula and let it calculate. How long did it take me to do this? 2 minutes. And it took me longer to explain some things in here than anything, but I can run this literally in a minute or less on a daily basis. I've got my census, I've got my hours. And I can see exactly where I am from a variance control, a budget control standpoint on a daily basis.
Where did you say we were finding our midnight census?
That can be pulled off of a couple of places actually, but we get it,
I'll pull it off of, is it correct on the nursing productivity?
yeah, you can pull it off of that, and I get it out of the census reports. I will also show you, let me go to PCS, and you guys will be seeing this soon to a store near you. And so let's go to,
November, right?
You'll make a budget if you don't get that.
Because November, I got 8 nurses when they hired us, it's a team.
there you go. Takes me just a second.
Is that something I can defend, I guess?
Okay, so if I want to go in here and look at what my hourly is and know my midnight, so I know on her unit right now, she's got 14 patients, right? Go up here to click view details, right here, click on that. And for the time period you're looking at, you'll see your hourly census. Okay, so you kind of know where you are. And you can run a census report as well. Yeah, this shows you census for every hour. Yes. Yep, don't pay any attention to this because she's not really +4 nurses every hour. We're still stabilizing. Everybody kind of gets up in arms. Until I tell you to get up in arms, don't get up in arms, because we're still stabilizing the data. But that's one way you can get it, where you can get it off your productivity and your daily reports and so forth. But two quick pieces of information, takes you just a few minutes to get, plug it in here, and you know exactly where you are on a daily basis. Make sense? Okay.
You know something else is probably an opportunity, I don't know how this goes on Columbia campus, but this is new to me. I don't think, when day shift nurses, if they stay till 7:01 p.m., they get 1 minute of night shift differential. And see, under Toomey, a day shift nurse didn't get, if they were at AM, so can they look at maybe turning that off in Kronos, because really a day shift nurse, if they stay till 7:15, which is their clock out time, 3 days a week, that's 45 minutes at $4 an hour.
We had
That's almost,
it's a programmatic policy issue. There's no, from a differential standpoint, there is absolutely nothing in FLSA that speaks to that issue. Only that you pay them overtime if they're employed in 7 consecutive calendar days, wherever you find that at, so forth, right? So from that, it's just it's a policy standpoint in terms of what's favored. We had different policies at Tenet. You had to work so many hours, because they had evening and nighttime differential. So you had to be on for so many hours to get that evening differential, at least 4 hours, and then so on into the night.
because I guess if we're saying you have to clock out at 7:15, that's your clock out time, because you know they want to build into their lunch break.
Yeah.
If you're paying 500 nurses $4, almost $4 an hour, that's $2,000 a day that you're paying extra. Really, they didn't work the night shift. I mean,
So-
do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm not trying to be unfair, but
No, I understand what you're saying. So we run a report. What's a quicker way to do it in Kronos? If you want to scan how many hours people are working, let me show you. So let's go back to Sarah's unit, and we'll get rid of the reports. And we're going to pick her unit. You said 51, 61, 55?
Um,
well, they don't. Okay.
It's just whoever's on the clock from 7 to 7.
Okay, so it's going to go to a listing of her employees, and I have it set for the current pay period, so it's going to look at any employee that's worked on her unit for the current pay period. But I can come up here real quick and change this to the previous, or yesterday. And now, I very quickly have a view of 12.4, 12.3, 11.9, 12.2, same thing I just read in the report, but I don't need the total number of hours, I just need to scan from a control standpoint what people are doing around that. And there is actually an industry term for this, okay? And it's called payroll leakage, okay? And Levi just loves that term. We've had that conversation once. No, he doesn't like that term. But what it means is that you leaked 0.3 hours, you were scheduled and expected 12, you had an actual of 3. so that you've had an opportunity there. So that's an easy way to go in and scan your previous day, just very quickly to see what people work. And you know some people are gonna be in class, you know what your shift people are from the schedule, and so forth, so you can very quickly scan that and see what people are doing in that way. So those are a couple of ways in your Chronos to very quickly look at your information. Now, how much do you guys use QuickView?
We're just
Not
kind
very
of getting
much.
started.
Yeah,
Is it in my pad?
yeah.
I'm not sure if we were supposed to get access to
Access to what?
it. There's a nurse productivity app.
Oh, the old one? We have, you talking about the same one that we use, and it's this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's not, you said that's old, we don't do that.
Well, I say old MyPal, it's the one that they've had running for a long time. Actually, Jill Iser and I, Jill's over in Operations Science, they actually
Uh-huh.
control the data lake process. She and I have had a couple of conversations about, do we continue this with what we're doing potentially in API? We don't know yet, okay? I do know people still do use this. I look at it, in fact, I had a call from one of the med-surg managers over at Richland yesterday about a conversation around the old productivity tool. So I know people are looking at it.
So API, if I put an oath by a team member's name for orientation, is that pulled in productivity? Or do I still need to code in Chronos?
You have to still then code that correctly in Chronos.
So the
It's a
hours get
two-step
correct in
process.
productivity?
What it does in API is it precludes it from a productivity calculation once we're fully up and running in API. And we'll show you that next. It's kind of the final thing we look at. We're in the process of programming the work standards into API to give you a productivity percentage data. The volumes are already calculated in API. I'm not sure about Toomey's volume. Did we got Toomey flowing as well yet or not? We need to confirm that. The Columbia campuses are, I'm looking at my project manager for API. Putting it on the spot.
So
Okay.
even with, API now functionally communicating with Chronos, that's not gonna carry over automatically then?
No, because of there are potentials, one of the things, we've got a meeting Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday with payroll and GE.
So I don't have
It
access
has
to that.
the ability to cross, if we truly did it, cross to the time card. Like for instance, PTO. The problem with it is if you don't clean it up, in the example we were given, it actually came out of the Toomey campus.
Where it threw all the
Yeah,
PTO
through all
on
the
there.
PTO,
Yeah.
because if we don't clean that up and some of that, and payroll.
So we turned that off.
Yeah, we turned it off.
Yeah, see, we didn't get that memo, at least I didn't.
Yeah, well, I told Tori, I don't know, I told Tori to let y'all know, so I'm not sure what happened.
She's on vacation.
Is she? Well, there you go. The problem with that is that you could, in theory, pay somebody for 60 hours of time. They only needed really one PTO, but they blocked out 5 days. So you can pay them 60 hours here and 60 hours there if we let it cross over automatically. So I don't believe we're gonna allow that to happen in that sense. We're gonna cross it to the schedule, but to the actual time card, you're still gonna need to clean the Chronos up.
We're gonna let everybody know.
So I'm trying to find, this is kind of an example, but a bad example. And let me change this to a 3-day view. This is Ninth Ortho. We don't have these set correctly yet. This is in API.
Okay.
This is what we're doing next in API to help you from a volume and productivity standpoint, okay? On a daily basis, and it will help you effectively manage everything that we've just talked about on a daily basis. But it won't project out for you what your cut point is, so it's still useful to do the worksheet. But what we've done up here is we've got volume running in API, and this is actually an every 4-hour ADC running in API, so that from a labor management standpoint, it's as close to true as possible. One of the disconnects we get, as we talked about early, is that the midnight census issue, because of the workload volume during the day, and the ability to flexibly schedule more during the day, less at night, overall equal what it's supposed to relative to midnight census. This will help you do that in the fact that it's running an every 4-hour ADC. So you can see on this unit where they went from 12.67 in this first block, or this day overall, to a 13.33 to a 20.67 based on the overall ADC. So this is going to get you a much closer and truer picture of how you're doing. Now, what we're doing, and this is not correct productivity, I know it's hard to see, is what we do is we go in and add what your budgeted worked hours per patient day is for direct labor, so we're backing into that. And then remember I said we take management out and just leave in the direct labor, the variable labor, which is the nurses, the techs, and the unit secretaries. So we get that standard, and what it will do, based on what you schedule, either productive or non-productive, to your point around this, if you have somebody, let's see, is there anybody here? There's nobody here that's in class, so if I had somebody in class, or if I had somebody in orientation, it wouldn't factor into this calculation.
It's in red at the bottom.
Well, classes, right here,
Yeah.
so this person wouldn't factor in. I don't have anybody on orientation, so, but if you had somebody on orientation, it wouldn't factor in. But what it will do is it will calculate, based on the volume and based on what you schedule, what your actual hour, remember our calculation in efficiency, our actual worked hours per patient day? It will calculate that for you on a daily basis. And it will then give you an overall productivity based on those calculations.
Do we have access to that?
You will once we get it fully loaded. We're in the process of loading all of this and confirming that they're accurate. I don't
Okay.
want to tell you to work off of this until we've got it loaded, and B, I've audited it to make sure that it's absolutely accurate in terms of your hours per patient day and so forth. So this is the next step in that process, okay? So then what we'll layer on top of it, once we have it accurate from a control standpoint, and this is some of the tools we're putting in place to help automate some of this control and make it more as close to real time as possible, is in the background, this communicates with PCS. And PCS, based on your actual workload that your nurses are documenting, is calculating the equivalent number of hours expected based on actual workload relative to acuity. And then what we anticipate seeing is a slight suggestion for adjustment based on that. So for instance, one of those questions in Sarah's area may be, well, I'm scheduled for 200 hours per day, but acuity's high, and workload is saying I should be 220 hours per day or 210. That will help us understand that objectively around acuity. As it calculates and brings that back in, because it's going to communicate backwards with API. Once we know the data is valid, and I tell it to, and we all agree, to tell me what that final adjustment will be. So you get base, budget, volume, workload relative to volume in this calculation to be as accurate as possible. Because what I want it to be able to do, if I have a department where we truly, because you hear this, acuity is high, we get to kill, we're not sure that that's right. This will help us understand that more better.
So the budget and actual, are those like shifts, budgeted shifts and actual
No, those
shifts, or
are
what is that?
FTEs.
Okay, I
Yeah,
got it.
those are FTEs.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
That's why I say it's not right, because we know that she didn't need just 2.9 FTEs. We've got to adjust these standards up here. We're just now starting, we've only got a few loaded that we started playing with. So I just quickly found one I knew was there, just to kind of give you an example of what it will do. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So that's what's coming next, and that's what you can use once it's fully loaded on a daily basis, in addition to the worksheet I just showed you. But my point in kind of